All right, Pens lost last night to Dallas 3-2. They're in Chicago tonight on the NBC Sports Network, taking on Chicago. Trade deadline today, Greg Diulis, Mark Straight, they picked him up from Tampa after he was just acquired by Philadelphia and Frankie Corrado. And the Pens are going to be shipping off Eric Fair and Steve Oleski. They're headed to Toronto. So just some thoughts about bolstering their defense, much-needed defense help for the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Well, Rob, I think the scariest part about this is does this indicate that there's something more seriously wrong with Chris Letang? At least as I was driving today, listening to some of the NHL network and talking about what's going on with Letang and do the Penguins need to do something to replace him? That could be what's happening here, and if that's what's happening, whatever they acquired today is not going to replace Chris Letang.
All right, Pitt basketball, they lost to Georgia Tech last night. They'll be at the John Paul Jones Arena Saturday at noon, 93.7 The Fan, to face Virginia. Kevin Stallings' Panthers have taken their lumps this year, Greg.
They have, and it's one of those things, Rob, I think that maybe it should just be time for the Panthers to end the season when it ends. Don't worry about going into the NIT or the CBI or whatever it is. It's time to just kind of put this one behind them, start to look afresh, look anew, maybe hope to get in one or two of those graduate transfers or something like that, because this program really is devoid of talent right now.
Purdue, Indiana last night. It was Purdue over Indiana, 86-75. Duke beat Florida State, 75-70. Iowa State defeated Oklahoma State, 86-83. Kentucky over Vanderbilt, 73-65. In top 20 action tonight, you've got some good ones. You've got Louisville, Wake Forest, Washington, UCLA, Boston College, Notre Dame. Lecom Field yesterday, the Bucks got beat by Toronto, 12-0. They faced Minnesota today. A couple of other things to look at. The World Golf Championships, Mexico City. Top 49 of the top 50 golfers in the world will be participating, and Rory McIlroy's got the sticks again, and he's ready to go to work. So just some thoughts about that. Of course, March is here, and that means madness in the NCAA. This is the final week of the regular season.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to what's going on. It's actually the women's the women's Big Ten tournament is going on here in Indianapolis, along with the NFL Combine. So it's kind of an interesting little situation here in Indianapolis. What a beautiful sports town this is. There's always some sort of action going on, especially with amateur sports. It's a great city for amateur sports. That's one of the things that I can observe for you from afar at this juncture, Rob. But also a thing that, really looking forward to this NCAA tournament this year as far as men's basketball, because it seems to be a really wide open field. Nobody is head and shoulders above the rest as far as a favorite going in. Should be a really interesting first weekend for the NCAA tournament in March Madness.
You got to believe the Golf Channel with the Masters about a month away. A lot of people are going to be watching this one in Mexico City. This truly is the best of the best. Golf Channel is going to have some big numbers, you got to believe.
Yeah, I bet you they do. It's good to see Rory McIlroy. We were just talking last weekend about where's Rory McIlroy there. I know he's been playing over on the European tour, but really hasn't shown his face very much over here with the guys that we're familiar with. It was nice to see Ricky Fowler get a win on the PGA Tour. So, one of your favorites because he dressed it so dazzlingly. But it should be a real nice weekend there with 49 of the top 50 playing in Mexico City. Should be really a lot of fun.
All right, Pirates, way too early, but I got to get some observations. Your thoughts, Grapefruit League action as they continue to work at Lecom Field in Bradenton, Florida.
Yeah, I almost, I know it's all about these marketing dollars and all that, but Rob, it doesn't feel right to not call that McKechnie Field, does it?
It feels good enough for me because there's cash on the line, my friend. And that's good for the Pirate organization. Hey, listen, the NFL brand is all about this, meaning these combines, and they put a lot of money into the economy of Indianapolis. Great city, Lucas Oil Field. Lucas Oil, of course, one of those nationally known Fortune 500 companies. It's all good. But when you go there as an agent, it really is work, work, work. There's a lot to see and a little time to do it, right?
Yeah, it is. I already had a real nice meeting with the Oakland Raiders earlier tonight with regard to some of my veteran free agents that are coming up, and they really like our young kid Garyon Conley, the defensive back from Ohio State, and that's what I'm going to be going through for the next 3 days. In addition to the NFLPA seminar that all certified agents are required to attend out here. And Rob, it's amazing. There'll be 700 agents in a room, and every year I marvel at the fact that there is not a room in the world filled with more hatred than that room with 700 guys that can't stand each other.
All right, well, listen, one thing that I can stand is talking about this. I find it very intriguing, and I love to watch everything that is the NFL Network and the Combines. It's must-see TV, in my opinion. We talked about a lot of things with Ted Arnott earlier, but I want to get into the trenches with you. Offensive tackle, Mike Mayock, who does such a great job, we alluded to earlier, NFL Network. These are his position top 5 players, and now it's time to get down and dirty with the offensive tackles. Ryan Resnick of Wisconsin, Garrett Bowles of Utah, Antonio Garcia, Troy, Roderick Johnson, Florida State, Taylor Moton of Western Michigan, and Jermaine Emmanuel of Texas A&M.
Yeah, Rob, it's really an interesting offensive tackle class this year. Ryan Ramchick, the kid from Wisconsin, is Mike Mayock's number 1. Just one of those big studs. And it seems like Wisconsin over the years has had just so many of those big, thundering type of offensive linemen. And that's the type of guy that when he latches on to you, he really just beats the daylights out of you. And, one guy who was up in that list during the season, not on that list now, but maybe can make some strides to get back into that offensive tackle class, is Pitt Panther Adam Bisnavati, who's out here at the Combine hoping to make some strides to get himself back up into that list. But that's a nice group of guys. But one of the things that's a little bit remarkable about it is you got teams like Utah and Troy and Western Michigan in that mix. Usually at the offensive tackle position, it's more of the, those top 5 conference type guys, the USCs, the UCLAs, the Penn State, those types of schools where now you're getting the little fringe schools, especially with Moton from Western Michigan, who had they had a great year this year, but that's a MAC school that you don't normally see an offensive tackle coming out of a school like that.
All right, interior offensive line, Mike Mayock's positional top 5, Forrest Lamp, Western Kentucky, Cam Robinson, Alabama, Dan Feeney, Indiana, Ethan Posick, LSU, and Dion Dawkins of Temple. Greg Diolis.
The cream of that crop, Rob, and I don't know how Mike could have not had this kid at the top, but Cam Robinson from Alabama is just a massive road grader type of offensive lineman. Wore number 74 for the Crimson Tide this year, and is a guy that just really, when he gets out there and gets it going, he's an unstoppable force. That's the guy that's really going to be the prime pick, and unless I miss my guess horribly, Cam Robinson will be the number 1 interior offensive lineman off the board.
All right, we've got interior defensive line, Jonathan Allen, Alabama. Also, Caleb Brantley of Florida, Malik McDowell, Michigan State, Larry Ogajob from Charlotte, and Chris Wormy of Michigan. LaDainian Tomlinson, the Hall of Famer, says Myles Garrett is going to be a super talent. Who do you like interior defensive line out of Mike Mayock of the NFL Network's position top 5 players?
Yeah, well, on the interior side, my favorite of that group is Malik McDowell from Michigan State. He ended up tearing up an ankle a little bit during the season, tried to play through it. Michigan State had just, a horrible year as far as Michigan State's standards are concerned, but he's the guy that's the prize of that group. You mentioned the name Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett is an edge rusher. He's a defensive end from Texas A&M, and seemingly right now the consensus top pick in this draft.
Well, that brings me to where my next, that's the reason we brought his name up, edge rusher. You've got Garrett in there, right. Tim Williams out of Alabama, Derek Barnett, Tennessee, Solomon Thomas of Stanford, and Tarkese McKinley out of UCLA, part of Tom Bradley's defensive UCLA Bruins.
Yeah, it's pretty clear why Alabama is so good all the time. Look at the list, the last 3 sets of guys, the interior offensive line, interior defensive line, edge rusher, and then we're going to follow that with linebacker. Alabama has a player at the top of each of those groups. I mean, that team was just amazingly, I don't know how they didn't win the national championship, but that, particularly now that we're talking on the edge rushers, that Tim Williams from Alabama is just one stud. I'm looking forward to see what type of time he runs here when that position group runs. And I don't think they run until Monday.
All right, now we're going to take a look at linebacker. Reuben Foster, Alabama. Hasten Reddick, Temple. Zach Cunningham, Vanderbilt. Jared Davis, Florida. And Alexei Alazoni from Florida. Those are your linebackers, Mike Mayock's position top 5 players, NFL Network.
Yeah, I think he's got Reuben Foster in there correctly. I mean, he's the cream of that crop. But Hassan Reddick from Temple. It's nice to see Temple have some guys that are really in there as being a strong consideration. And most of the guys that I've kind of run into prior to coming out here, and then just in conversation here, and it's only been a half day, but that I'm hearing about that Reddick will not be around after about the 15th pick of the draft.
All right, let me hit the cornerback and safety positions, and then we're going to go right to Pitt and Ohio State. Ted earlier took care of West Virginia and Penn State, those who've been chosen to go to the Combines. On the NFL Network all week, don't miss it, folks. Great stuff. These are the future stars of the National Football League. Cornerback, Sidney Jones, Washington. Marshawn Lattimore, Ohio State. Marlon Humphrey, Alabama. Teez Tabor from Florida. And Trey Davius White from LSU. Safeties, Malik Hooker, Jamal Adams. They from Ohio State and LSU, respectively. Jabril Peppers, hearing a lot about him. Ted likes him a lot from Michigan. Buda Baker from Washington. And Obi Malafotwi from Connecticut. Now, as far as Pitt, we're going to get to them in a moment, but let's take a look at the hometown because we are in Eastern Ohio. Ohio State Buckeyes. Receiver Noah Brown, cornerback Kerryon Conley, center Pat Effinine, along with safety Malik Hooker. We talked about him, and punter Cameron Johnston. Those guys are representing the Ohio State Buckeyes.
They are, and my group, Vantage Management Group, is representing Kerryon Conley, the corner from Ohio State, and we're very proud to have him as part of our group. And Malik Hooker, who you've mentioned being the number one safety, is a kid from Newcastle High School, really a prize basketball recruit coming out of Newcastle. Kind of came into the picture. He is a redshirt sophomore who really looks to be a high draft pick. Some of the draft pundits have him as high as the number 2 overall pick, and that would be really cool for Newcastle High School to have a guy go that high.
All right, here we go. Pitt Panthers, James Conner, Nate Peterman, Awan Price, he from Rankin. You've got Scott Orndorff and Dorian Johnson. They, of course, from Bell, Vernon, and Waynesburg, respectively. And Adam Bisnawati out of Mount Lebanon. We talked a little bit about him. The Panthers being represented this weekend. Your thoughts about them playing on Sundays at the next level?
Yeah, I'm very proud that we're working with Scott Orndorff from the Panthers. And, he's a guy that really... unfortunately, this is a tough tight end group this year. That is the best position in the draft this year with O.J. Howard and David Njoku from Miami and Evan Ingram from Ole Miss and Jake Butt even from Michigan who got hurt. But that's a tough group that Scott is mixed in with. So it's going to be hard for him to get drafted very highly. But, if you saw some of the pictures of James Conner this week, man, he's really chiseled, Rob, and to have put in the work that he put in coming off of the situation that he's come off of, that's really tough. And I'm hard-pressed to understand or believe that he's not in that Mike Mayock top 5 list of running backs. You've got a kid like Christian McCaffrey from Stanford who, he had a nice career, but ended up kind of just bowing out of the team bowl game because he didn't want to get hurt or whatever the case may be. There's no way in my mind that James Conner doesn't have a better pro career than that kid.
All right, listen, always a pleasure. By the way, you were talking about Newcastle. They're involved in a big basketball game tonight. And tomorrow night, Jim Equals of the Beaver County Times and I are going to be at Frank's Original Grill on 7th Avenue in Beaver Falls, heading into WPAL Championship Weekend for hoops. And that'll be at the Peterson Event Center. Ladies and gentlemen, Greg Dellis will be back with us Sunday at 11 on the Coons Market Black and Gold Sunday Show at CBS Radio World Headquarters in Greentree to take a look back at what he saw this week at Lucas Oil Stadium, the site of the 2017 NFL Network presents NFL Combines. Greg, have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Take care, man.
Good night, everybody.